All right, the meeting is being live streamed now.
Live
There's
stream
no
now.
electricity in my place.
So, Bharat, only we could start now because it's being live streamed.
I think we should start in a minute. It's
Hi,
4:29.
Patricia.
Hello, Father Walter. How are you?
How are you?
I'm as good as can be in
Hi,
the
Neha.
circumstances. Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
Walter, how are you?
fine.
Long time. Should we begin whenever you signal? We will go live.
We are already live. We should begin.
Okay.
Father Tony.
So, hello, friends. Good evening to each one of you who has joined. And I know that many have joined from faraway places as well. So, welcome to each one of you. Before we begin this sessions, let us spend 1 minute in silence to pay our respect to all those who were killed, who died from both the communities as well as others. A minute's silence to pay tribute to them. Thank you. So friends, the purpose of the meeting is basically our quest for peace and reconciliation based on justice. So that's the main purpose of this meeting. We have very eminent persons in the panel as well as those who are attending, participating in this meeting. Among our main speakers, I would like to introduce the following. We have with us a very, very eminent person, Padma Shri, Miss Patricia Mukhim. She calls herself a journalist activist. And looking at her profile, I am quite convinced that she is indeed a journalist, an activist par excellence. She is currently the editor of Shillong Times. She's been an award-winning journalist, a very noted social activist, and both these have been marked by, and I have no doubts about that, with these 3 or 4 what I call C's, which is courage, compassion, commitment, and competence. She has also served as a member of the National Security Advisory Board. She has been a great defender of human rights. She has fought inside the courts as well as outside. She has fought for the rights of women, of non-tribals, and several others, oppressed and vulnerable. So it is proper that not only people of Meghalaya, where she hails from, but people from all over the Northeast and beyond respect her a great deal. And she is definitely known as the pride of Meghalaya and the Northeast. I must thank Ms. Patricia for the date change. We were planning to have this program somewhere towards the end of the month. And when I spoke to her, she told me, Father, why do you want to delay it? Don't we know that this is an emergency? and we should therefore have it as soon as possible. And that's why we are having this meeting today. So I thank you, Ms. Patricia, very much for drawing our attention to what is truly an emergency and a heartbreaking things that are happening there. Truly disturbing. It has singed the conscience of a nation and beyond. Our second person is Mary Beth. She's a women's rights defender. She's also a trainer on non-violent conflict transformation and a very important term, peace building. She is a recognized expert in the field of women, peace, and security, not only nationally but internationally. Welcome to both of you, Ms. Patricia and Mary Beth. We are indeed grateful to you for taking time off. Our third speaker is a very young and dynamic scholar. His name is Tona Walte. He did his master's at TISS Mumbai. He did his MPhil at the Delhi School of Economics in sociology. And currently he is pursuing his doctorate at the Hyderabad University. Welcome, Tona. Good to see you. There are others also I need to introduce, although some of them may not need much introduction, like Advocate Irfan, engineer. Irfan ji is a long-time associate. His father and he are very well known to the church and to various other groups, religious, non-religious. Irfan sir is a lawyer, a writer, and an activist. Some of us call him, he may not be aware of this, an organic intellectual. He combines academics with a great amount of tough grassroots work. Currently, Irfan ji is the director of CSSS, which is Center for the Study of Society and Secularism. I'm sure that Irfan ji will give his life for secularism. There is no doubt in my mind about that. He is also guiding Samanvaya. As you know, that you have been invited to this program by Samanvaya. Samanvaya was started in the year 2015 after a meeting we had of the Western Jesuits and collaborators. We formed a group. The group did not have a name at that time, but we met every month and we got a name from a very eminent late father, Noel Seth, a great scholar, teacher of Hinduism, and absolutely a great human being. He gave us this name. Samanvaya has been doing well. Every year, every month there have been programs. Some of the members, and I'm sure many others have also joined now here. Irfan is currently guiding it, holding it. There is also a co-founder, Prashant Olalekar, who did a lot of work in its initial stages. It's because of his hard work that we have Samanvaya enduring, carrying on, soldiering on. Thank you, Prashant and Irfan ji. Then there is, of course, Astrid, who has been constantly with us. She's probably joined us now. Then there is Anamta, who has been also very active, and she's been helping Prashant Ulalekar as well as Irfan engineer. So thank you, all of you, for joining. I now hand over the mic, as it were, to Advocate Irfan, engineer.
Thank you, Father Tony, for this lovely introduction. So far as I am concerned, others whom you introduced very well deserved, but you were, I feel, somewhat generous in my case in introducing me. So thank you for that. There are young people who are associated with Samanvaya. Anamta, who is helping us and who has been soldiering and helping us in various ways right from the beginning. Ria Sawant is also there. These were Xavier's students who joined Samanvaya some years ago and carried on and did wonderful work. So all of you welcome. Also, we are going through very challenging times. Very challenging times. We wouldn't have been, perhaps, the nation would not have been sitting and discussing this issue today. Media would not have been discussing this issue today had it not been for a video that went viral about the brutal sexual assault and inhuman parade of the victim. The captors had all the control. Actually, this happened on May 4th. And after over 80 days, this video became viral. And the parliament also is discussing no confidence motion, where the most important issue that is being raised in no confidence motion is situation in Manipur. Why did we come to this? Why the government of the day, the Prime Minister, the Chief Minister, have been silent for so long? Chief Minister spoke only after the video leaked and became viral. Otherwise, they were trying to cover this up all the time, throughout. Former Chief Minister of Manipur, other important public representatives came to Delhi, tried to seek Prime Minister's appointment, but nothing happened. Prime Minister decided to go abroad and did not give appointment to these important persons. Even now, Prime Minister has not spoken up much, spoke after a very long time, only for 36 seconds, as it were. And that too, comparing Manipur with many other states, sexual assaults in many other states. Is this comparable? I haven't seen conflict of this nature, of this intensity. And we have investigated many conflicts, documented many conflicts, particularly communal conflicts. What sets this apart from the other conflicts? We'll be discussing this. So more than 50,000 people are in relief camps since over 3 months. This hasn't happened. And it's a large proportion of Manipur, 50,000 people form a large proportion of the population of Manipur. 2 ethnic communities are at war. More than 250 churches destroyed, maybe now more. And some Hindu places of worship also destroyed. The 250 churches destroyed. This has never happened in any other state. 150 people killed. 6,523 FIRs have been launched. And nothing is being done. Chief Minister is pleading helplessness that he could not investigate into this FIR of sexual assault, which was lodged on May 4th, because there are hundreds of such FIRs. This was a shameless admission. Any other government would have resigned on the spot. One BJP MP was attacked in Imphal after he met the chief minister because he belonged to the wrong, quote unquote, wrong ethnic group. Even a BJP MP in a minister's house was attacked. Even they don't feel safe. There's total breakdown of law and order. This has never happened in history of India in any state. There are borders and trenches. We see trenches when there is civil war. There is literal civil war in Manipur. And the government is comparing that video with sexual assault, incidences of sexual assault that happened in West Bengal and Rajasthan. It is very, very shameful. There's conflict between security forces, between Assam Rifles and Manipur Police. They are blocking each other's ways and are in conflict. Again, this is something unprecedented. Checkpoints, several checkpoints. If you have to go from one place to another, you have to cross border, as it were, within Manipur. There are several checkpoints that you have to cross, which are manned by communities and security forces. There is hope in this situation, in this circumstance. We hear news about Meiteis helping Kukis and Kukis helping Meiteis in this conflict. There is hope. There is humanity. It is on this that we have to build on. Schools, public offices, government servants have not been able to report on duty because they happen to come from wrong area. This is, I haven't seen this kind of conflict. And how they are managing the media, why the media is so silent, why the government does not feel the need and the urgency to do something and establish peace, or why there is helplessness. This responsibility falls on us, civil societies, citizens of this country. One, to pressurize the government to do something and establish peace, but also us to do something. Today afternoon, we'll also be discussing, hopefully, what we can do in this situation. What us as citizens, what is our duty? We have not come here, of course, we have come here to listen to the plight of what's happening in Manipur, but also to see our duty and what we should do when the state is not playing the role that it should play. We have a great panel. Father Tony has introduced the panel to us, and my job is very simple, to call the panelists one by one to speak. I think it will be ideal for each panelist to speak for 15 minutes so that there is enough time for us to address the concerns, take suggestions from the citizens who have joined this. I must also welcome people who are on YouTube, watching YouTube live streaming of this event on YouTube, and there are many people who are watching us there. So all those who are watching there are also welcome. Please write your comments if you are on YouTube, and we'll ask the panelists those questions. If any of the participants have any questions after they finish, all of them, please keep your questions ready. Ideally, you type out your questions in the chat box. And if we have time after that, maybe you could invite some people to give their comments or ask questions by opening their mic. I'll request everybody to mute their mics, and only the speaker who's speaking should unmute themselves. First, I invite Patricia Mukim, a great journalist, and she will be speaking on she'll be giving us political analysis on the way to justice and peace. Patricia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Irfanji. So the socio-political analysis, I am sure that many people have read, understood what is behind the present civil war. I call it a civil war because there are so many weapons floating around. About 4,000 odd weapons have been stolen or facilitated to be stolen from the police armory. About 5 lakh rounds of ammunition are with people. Then if you go to the hills, it's the same because there are so many of those surrendered militants called under that surrender of operations agreement with Government of India. So when they are under attack, it's natural that they will also want to defend themselves. But Manipur, I've I've been there very often in the past because I was doing a study along with IFAD, International Fund for Agricultural Development, and also with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, had gone there to interview especially those MSMs, male having sex with male, because there's a huge number of people with HIV/AIDS at the time. I don't know whether it's come down now. And so drugs, I think, are a huge problem in Manipur, have been a huge problem in Manipur. And people are actually, most of those who have HIV/AIDS are the ones using injectables. So UNODC was trying out this needle exchange program. Then also I visited a lot of these hill areas to see if people were willing, the IFAD project was going to give them alternative means of livelihood other than growing marijuana, ganja, or poppy. So they tried to get people to grow other crops like aloe vera, then they tried passion fruit, but people were not ready to do that because, ganja just grows. It doesn't need to be really looked after, and so does poppy. These are easy vegetation to grow, and there's a very, very smooth flow of how these things are collected from the place where they are grown, taken away in trucks. The elderly are the ones who put them together in batches. So it's a very well developed kind of livelihood, and people are not willing to give that up for something that is a little more troublesome, an agricultural process that demands a little more time and effort from their part. And on visiting Manipur, one has always been sort of worried at the fact that out of the 22,000 plus square kilometers of land that is the geographical area of Manipur, only 2,000 square kilometers forms the valley. And 53% of the population live in that valley. And I remember telling all the Naga and Kuki friends that at some point, this has got to give. This will become a contentious point because in the hills are 90% of the geographical area. You have only 40% of the population. So the hills are sparsely populated. The valley is chock-a-block. But the irony again is that everything is located in the valley. All the institutions of learning, medical institutions, including the Regional Institute of Medical Sciences, everything that happens only in the valley. The hills have been left undeveloped, whether you go to the Naga Hills, to Ukhrul, Senapati, or whether you go to Churachandpur and beyond. They are not developed. You go up to More, it's very sparsely developed. So that is the unequal kind of governance system. Then they have this Hills Council of Manipur, but they never have elections. And I think in the past they've boycotted polls and asked that these hill councils be more strengthened and all that, but it never happened. And I do not know why they haven't asked for a 6th schedule status. Because if you have a 6th schedule status, like especially the one that is adapted by the Bodoland Territorial Council, is a powerful institution, especially if people who are elected there, if they do their work, if they are held accountable, it can be a face-changing kind of institution. But the hills of Manipur don't have that. Neither the Naga hills nor the Kuki Zo hills. So I have been asking them, why is it that you do not, when you ask for a separate administration, what exactly are you looking at? Have you defined what you want to see in that separate administration? Because it's important to be able to give a white paper to the government also, so that it can act on that. I don't think they've really thought through. They've only been saying we want a separate administration, separate administration. Indeed, you need a separate administration for governance to speed up development in the hills. Because what has happened as of today, from both the Kuki Zo and the Naga communities, most of them study very hard to get out of those hills, to find a job somewhere in the rest of the country. You'll find a lot of them in the civil services and different national services. And the reason is because there's nothing to go back to in the hills. There are no institutions of any credibility. I remember even 12, 15 years ago, there were several self-help groups in Ukhrul areas, in Senapati areas, in even the Kuki Zo areas, but there were not enough banks. There were no banks in some of these places. And those self-help groups were keeping the money with themselves. So there is so much of mal-development or lack of development, or a development that is concentrated in the valley, that it was bound to create this sort of disenchantment. And of course, we all have heard that what is the final blow was the demand for scheduled tribe status for the Meitei community. The Meitei community have always believed that they were a very progressive community. They had become Hindus since the 17th century or so. And I don't think that they really felt that they needed to be in a scheduled status. But I think what has driven the agenda now is this need for expansion of their living space. I think that is what has triggered the present conflict. And I don't think that it was a conflict that took off all of a sudden, because recently we met with some people from the Zo Kuki community who came to Shillong, to Meghalaya, because they needed to get their students enrolled into some of the universities here. Well, they cannot go back to Imphal. The hill people cannot go back to Imphal. They're full of fear. They're overwhelmed with fear. And even today, if they have to take a flight out of Manipur, they have to go around 300 kilometers all the way to Aizawl and take a flight from Aizawl. That was how people were coming to Shillong, because coming by road is again too distant. So with that sort of fear psychosis, how do you expect students, especially young students, to go back to school or college or university? Even those employed in the Manipur University are not able to go back to their jobs. In any other job, it's not possible for the Zo Kuki people to go back to their jobs in the valley. And perhaps it might be the same for some from the valley working in the hills in some of the establishments. So in this situation, what can be done? Then you have about 70,000 displaced people, about 20,000 of them in Mizoram, the rest circulating all across the other northeastern states, quite a big population in Meghalaya. Some women have delivered children inside these relief camps, no hospital facilities. They are running short on medicines, but there have been people who have been very, very generous, have come from Hyderabad and other places from the rest of India to come and give some kind of medical support, medical help. So in all of this, I'm not so sure how to talk about peace, because there must be a sense of justice. At the moment, both sides have come to a point of no return. It's so difficult to even think of bringing them together, sitting across the table. They're following very closely what is being discussed in Parliament. And they were very upset that the Home Minister yesterday put all the blame on infiltrators, as he calls them. Now, why do we have to label all the cookie Zoe people as infiltrators? You have a system in place where you identify those people who have crossed over because of the, the junta terror in Myanmar. In Mizoram, they've done that. They've set up camps for them, they've listed them, and they know how many people have come from there. And at some point, they will have to return. The same can be done with Manipur, but Manipur hasn't done that. They've just labeled them as infiltrators, and they have a sense that these infiltrators are being adapted, assimilated into the local population. We don't know that. These are all assumptions, and we don't have the census figures of 2021. So they keep saying, the Meiteis keep alleging that the population has grown by leaps and bounds. But where are the figures?
Hello.
Yes. Who's that?
So please go on, please go on.
Yeah. So then we are looking also at the kind of violence that is inflicted. It's so inhuman. Look at that case of the MLA, Mr. Bung Zaigin Walte. He was tortured he was given electric shock. He was pulled out of his car, and then he had to be taken to Delhi to be treated there in some hospital. Nobody visited him. He's a BJP MLA, for goodness sakes. But none of the BJP bigwigs or anyone visited him. Only a few media persons went there, Rajdeep Sardesa and Barkha. So this kind of violence is unimaginable. Can't think that people who have lived together for years, for decades, for several hundred years, could become such, sworn enemies. And therefore, I'm not so sure how to propose even the way forward, other than to ask the Zoe community that they should have a white paper on their demands. They cannot just say separate administration. What do they mean by that? I think then the conversation can start from there. The one thing that is really bothersome about this conflict, or the civil war, as I call it, is that the state is overtly in support of one group against the other. This is something we haven't seen in the past, that the state is itself implicit in supporting one group against the other. So I think I'll stop here, and maybe later we can answer questions.
Thank you, Patricia. Thanks a lot. You brought many issues and points on the table for all of us to think about. Basically, the essential food items not reaching, medicines not reaching, particularly the health, asymmetry of facilities and infrastructure, institutions being concentrated in the valley, and hill people being deprived about that, asymmetry in political representation. But you also said that the cookies of people should have a white paper. What do they mean by the demand of separate administration? And you pointed out that sixth schedule was one of the ways ahead. The state is blatantly standing with one community, according to you. The infiltrator, the charge of infiltrators is being bandied around like nobody's job. Although we heard one figure that there were 783 people who crossed the border with the after the junta over Myanmar. That was the figure we got, but that may not be an accurate figure. And that is one thing that could be done. And there are many, many steps to be taken to establish peace. Thank you. You brought in a lot of rich perspective. And with this, I invite Mary to make her presentation.
We have to
Guru,
Please unmute.
good, yeah, good evening. I am sorry, I could not also open my video because the line is quite erratic. I hope you will understand because we have very limited access to internet.
Yes, we understand.
Yeah. I really also don't know where to start because it's a lot of things culminating since May 3rd. The month of May was really a nightmare, though it was not a dream. When we say nightmare, it seemed to be like a dream while you sleep, but it was not. It was really difficult to even explain the horror, the fear, and the trauma, and all the destructions and the loss of lives in a very barbaric manner that we have witnessed here in the ground. As a person, women engaging in peace building for the last 15 years, it was heartbreaking. And I am personally mentally defeated in the way violence has been escalated in the state. And since day one, people in the ground, especially the Kuki community, in comparison with the Métis community, we are a minority, so we are less in number. So most of the people, whether they are in the war front or whether they are in the humanitarian front or in peace building, nobody can really take rest. Whereas on the other side of the valley, most of the people who are in the streets, the Mayrapai Bees, or people who are fully engaged in the conflict are mostly people from the periphery. Those elite group in Infal area did not actively take part. But however, they have moral support to the cause of the Métis and also do not dare to speak. I have many Métis friends who I used to work with and also highlight about our concern with regards to the activities and the involvement of the Mayrapai Bee, but I was informed that they dare not speak or advise them because they are backed by those in power position and also people with arms. I would also like to also share that I have been experiencing a lot of violent conflict in the past, 1990s, the Kuki-Naga conflict, and then there are multiple conflicts also between the Métis and the Métis Pangals and also between Paites, Kuki. So there are a number of conflict, but however, until recent times, Manipur was comparatively peaceful compared with the past. The armed group had also laid down arms among the Kuki-Zou community, and also the Valley armed group. They have, most of them are also fighting alongside the junta in Myanmar. So armed proliferations, or we see less arms in the community. But now everybody, almost so many people, even civilians, are armed, which is very unfortunate. And I would like to also share that my view with regards to the conflict. It is also clear that this is somehow state-sponsored, but also entwined with religious color. We see the way Chars are eliminated in Imphal city, and also in other parts, even before 3rd May. So most of these, many of the charts, see, if it is not a Hindu, not a religious color, I don't think charts will be selectively destroyed. I am informed that many of the RSS believers are also operating in Bisnupur district, which is neighboring to Churachandpur district. But they don't operate in the name of RSS, but they operate in the name of also taking the name of Sanamahi so that they get local acceptance. That is also another angle that needs to be looked in. And yesterday, when I saw our home minister talking about Manipur, I feel that his narrative is also the narrative of Chief Minister Biren Singh. And it really hurts me when he mentioned immigrant, because the word refugee is also politicized. We have been engaging in humanitarian front for those Myanmarese refugees in Manipur. I have accurate data. They are refugees. They are not immigrants. Most of the so-called immigrants that they claim it are already in Sajiwa jail in Imphal. They have been hunted down and put them in the jail. As of now, in the last updated that we have, there were around about 5,000 Myanmarese refugees across the state. But now even the number has been declined since the violent conflict, because they also feared there is food scarcity. There is a verbal attack on the Burmese refugees. So most of them also left left to Mizoram. And these are some of the issues that I want to also raise. Since the beginning, we have been working in humanitarian forefront, and especially hello.
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Humanitarian forefront. May was the most difficult period that I have ever experienced. There was no food. Transport, communication. Hello. Transport and communication was disrupted. Internet was banned. There was no food for people, and number of displaced people are increasing in thousands on daily basis. Actually, we are trampling to our feet. We were trying to connect with vendors in Mizoram because we cannot get supplies from the valley in Fall and also through across Bisnupur. But Mizoram was largely depending on ration, PDS. There was no sufficient stock. So we had to also look for food availability in Assam, in Guwahati. So that was really a nightmare. Banks was not in operation. There was no, now from the month of June, things is a bit improved. Things were a bit improved because banks started operating on alternate days. Earlier, when the bank was not operating, even individuals who wanted to donate cannot donate. And we cannot also purchase food when banks and internets were not functioning. Now, from the month of July, the state government, through the deputy commissioner in Churachandpur, and also I don't know in other parts in Churachandpur so far, from the May, during the month of May, in terms of humanitarian aid, the state was completely absent. And from July, I think from beginning of July, the government had distributed food, especially rice and dal, through the deputy commissioner. So far, they distributed 8,000 bags for 15,000 people residing in relief camps only in Lamka. And there are also large number of people in Kangpokpi, in Tengnoupal and all. So the amount which the government had provided, that was a peanut. The local communities are struggling to bring food. And from May 4 till almost till that, people in the relief camp were eating dal and rice in the morning, in the afternoon, 2 square meal, dal and rice. There is a problem of malnutrition. We have been working with 500 lactating mother. Most of them do not have sufficient meal to feed their baby because of sleepless night, traumatized, fear, and loss of appetite. They are unable to feed. And we also work with like 100 pregnant mother who delivered their baby in the jungle inside the relief camp. So when we see all this, it is really heartbreaking. One of the women that I met had childbirth in the jungle with just one mineral water bottle, which they took it for drinking water. The government has evacuated people from Kukis, tribals from Infal, through the help of security forces, and also Métis in the hills through security forces. But when villagers are under attack and burned, there was no evacuation from the part of the government. They had to cross 2-3 mountain ranges by foot. That's where the lady had delivered a baby. They were there sometimes 2 nights, 3 nights without food. Single cloth. By the time they reached the relief camp where they felt it's a safety place, they sometimes 3,000 people come at one time, single cloth, no food for 2 days, 3 days. So it was very, very difficult. The community are pulling together whatever they have. But here today, the kind of food that are provided in the relief camp is very heartbreaking. And number two, sanitation is a big challenge, because in some of the camps, like 5, where 200, 700 live there, they have 3 toilets, 2 toilets, no bathroom, and then there is no proper waste management. There is an outbreak of measles, outbreak of chickenpox. So it's quite sad to see that. Until today, 90% of the displaced people do not have a mattress. They sleep on the floor. So these are the kind of human disasters caused by the conflict. And with regards to peace negotiation, I would say that the government, everybody must be aware that the Home Minister initiated a peace committee which did not work, and now the government said the government is talking, the central government is talking with the Kukis and the Métis group separately. But when our people go and talk, they come back from after a talk, their report was not about peace. It was about conflict management. So it is very worrisome when peace will come back. It's mostly the talks are about not the political demand, not any peace initiative. It's only how to manage conflict in a very, very vague way, I would say. Conflict. I don't know if I gone too long, because there are so many things to share. So, hello.
Yeah, no, perhaps you could go ahead for a few minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Important.
Yeah, conflict has its own discourse. We are seeing people dying, firing. Even if we don't see firing in life, we see so in screen. So even people, everybody, not just the displaced people, ordinary people are deeply traumatized. There are fear psychosis, and you know, the aftermath is something which really worries me and many other people. It is very sad. Our future is very, very dark. The Kuki group have completely lost trust in the state government, and it does not mean that they have full trust in the central government, but they have nowhere to go, so they are there. So the other aspect is trust in God. People keep praying. Earlier in the previous conflict, it's the church who used to come out in a very big way to aid those who suffered, but this time the church are under attack. So the church was paralyzed first, and even humanitarian front has bigger challenges. So now we are also engaging on social psycho support, and also as a women activists, we are also a petitioner to the Supreme Court on sexual assault cases of Kuki girls. So we have multiple engagement, and so like it's very difficult for us to also prioritize what is important, what is the utmost need, what are emergency call. Everything seemed to be an emergency call. So it's quite heartbreaking.
Thank you, Mary. You focus on the plight of women and children in conflict zone. You gave a report from the ground, what is happening. My God, I was shaken. Although I'd heard this in other presentations as well, but I was shaken. And I'm sure all of us are shaken. The inhuman conditions in which human beings are put, animal-like condition. In Kandhamal, I had heard something which is equally applicable here. The victims of violence in Kandhamal had said they had fled to jungles for safety from civilized life. And the people said we felt safer with wild animals and less safe with inhuman societies. Lactating mothers, the problem, sanitation, lack of toilets, lack of food, ration, medicines, mental health situation, whole lot of things that you have rightly pointed out.
I just wanted to share one more point with regards to health. Most of the hospitals in the hills are paralyzed, and also when there are injured or sick patients in the relief camps, the government was not there. Most of the ambulance that are used during this crisis are from the civil society, the philanthropic organization. I see that the presence of government is hardly seen in Manipur at this moment.
All right. So thank you, Mary, for all that you said. And it's for us to step in where the state has failed. To step in, to do something, but this is a human situation. Open up our hearts and purses wherever necessary, wherever required, and a lot is required on one hand, and come up with whatever solutions contribute towards peace, towards justice, towards pressurizing this government to do something. Because Manipur is also part of India. Let's not forget that. Now I will, with this I'll invite Pauna Walte. He will focus more on youth in conflict zone. So the floor is yours, Pauna.
All right. Hello. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you,
Walte,
Irfan.
you are
And
audible.
first of all, let me thank the organizers for. I'm actually humbled to be put in the same panel with two women that I really respect and look up to. Nu Mary Beth and Kong Patricia. They're both very respectable and outspoken individuals that I have on my own personal capacity been following.
Can you be a little
And
louder and hold the mic closer?
yes, I hope I'm audible. So, yes. So actually, I'm very happy, not happy, but today I make a very important observation by saying that today marks the 100th day since the violence began. Uh, and uh, and to be honest, just as my topic suggests, uh, the youth have been the most affected by this conflict, right? And according to the National Youth Policy 2014, youth defined by that policy ranges between 15 to 29 years. And the 15 to 29-year-olds are the most affected by this conflict. And we are also the ones who are going to be given the mantle to rebuild what is left after this conflict as well. So I fall within that age group as well. So I have ordered my presentation in a few in a few chapters. Like in my first part, I wanted to highlight instances of institutionalized violence, and then go on to how the youth have responded and adapted to these situations, and then look at how the current crisis may be responded to, and what lurks for us in the future. So I am a cookies myself. So what I know and what I hear about, uh, sadly, because we do not have much of a neutral and unbiased media, what I know and what I hear about will mostly focus around the tribal narrative. However, I hope after what I present, I hope I can present something that gives and makes sense to the conflict. Now, to highlight instances of institutionalized violence, we all know that the violence began on 3rd May. Now, whether it was pre-planned or not is something that is debatable. But what I want to argue is that the violence that has happened on the Kukizou youth is is something that can be termed within, in academic terms, we call it structural violence or institutional violence. Now, yes, to quote instances, on 3rd May, when we in Manipur University was attacked by mobs, the David Zote, the assistant registrar himself, was not spared. He also had to escape, and approximately 400 tribal students, including 80 research scholars, were displaced, and they are displaced even now. Despite the escalation of the violence, there has been a repeated uh, insensitivity of government institutions towards the tribes. Now, on like if you check the Manipur University website right now, fresh admission notice has been given between 18th to 20th August, where people who want to apply to the next semester of Manipur University are supposed to register themselves. It is a thing to wonder, and it is a sorry state of affairs to know, because it is so obvious to all of us that none of the tribal students, none of the Kukizou students will be able to return safely to Imphal to register themselves for the semester registration. Another instance is when the government of Manipur, the Directorate of Education, on 16th June 2023, issued the reopening of schools across the state starting from 21st June onwards. Now the schools have reopened. Some schools have reopened in Imphal Valley, but it is impossible for the schools to reopen in the relief centers. If you look at Lamka alone, Lamka, officially called Chirachandpur, we call it Lamka, there are more than 105 relief centers, and most of them are located in schools. Now, these schools are being used as relief centers. It is impossible for the schools to reopen and for classes to resume. However, the insensitivity of the government and in reopening its educational institutions to go ahead is what is can only be translated as a deliberate attempt to leave the tribals behind in the race of progress and development, especially in the midst of this civil war, as Patricia has stated. Now, in terms of the medical students, I'll go ahead with the medical students as well. By June, a lot of the medical students who were displaced from Imphal, approximately 120 of them were displaced from Imphal. However, by mid-June, I forgot the exact date, but by mid-June, all the eminent medical institutions in Manipur, located in Imphal, like JNIMS, Shija, uh, RIMS, these are the eminent medical institutions, resumed their classes. Now, it is impossible for the tribal students again to return to Imphal and resume their classes. However, no exceptions were made. Nothing has been considered for these students as well again. And if you have been following the news on Manipur closely, we all know the story of Agnes Nikohat and Jin Xian Jin, the two women who have also been interviewed several times who have in YouTube. There are several media houses who have interviewed them, who have suffered brutal, unspeakable violence and assaults on them by mobs in the first week of May, uh, which hurts which hurts us to the core, to be honest. Now, in terms of work and career as well, again, it is the youth, again, the 15 to 29-year-olds who are mostly in the working age, the employable age, and the employed age. The government of Manipur issued an order on 28th June 2023 that none of the government servants, no matter which level, uh, will be allowed to receive their pay unless they come and attend their work. Now, now with almost all the government offices located in Imphal, how is it possible for the tribal employed persons to go back and return and work there when the moment they cross the border, they would be massacred. So these are instances of institutional violence that we have been facing, that our people have been facing. I will come to a few of the responses that I've been able to note since the violence began. It's been more than 3 months now. It's been 100 days. Uh, it's been the student organizations who have taken the lead to really help the students and the youth move ahead with this because of the complete uh, lack of state support, and honestly we believe is state complicity and state sponsored violence. So if you look at it in terms of exams, UPSC and SSC exams do not wait, even if even if a civil war is taking place right now in Manipur, right? So uh, requests were made for those people who had given their exam centers in Imphal to move uh, their exam centers to Aizawl and other places across the country. So, with luckily, fortunately, this permission was granted, and on 26th May, the Zomi Students Federation arranged the transport of almost of all the UPSC aspirants to give their exams in Aizawl on 26th May. Then the SSC exams come again as well, the State Selection Commission exams. The Cookie Students Organization arranged transport for SSC aspirants on two occasions. The first occasion was between 11th and 21st June, and and the second occasion took place from 12th June and they returned around 21st from 12th July, and they returned around 21st July, if I'm not mistaken, with the dates. So these are instances where whereas the exam center, which used to be just an hour drive to Imphal, is now a 17-hour drive to Aizawl, and this is being funded by the community, being looked after by the student organizations, with no support whatsoever from the state. Now, having spoken whatever facts and report I could collect before for this presentation, uh, I think there are two very important uh, and crucial elements that in which the youth have taken, in which the tribal youth, the Kukizo tribal youth, have taken a very active and strong stance. The first is in the looking after of relief centers. If you come to Chirachandpur, if you come to Lamka, of the approximately 105 relief centers, all of them are looked after by youth organizations. The Kuki Khamlai Lompi, the Young Vaike Association, the Mar Youth Association, the Young Paike Association, the Zo Youth Association. These organizations have been the ones that have been looking after each and every single one of these relief centers, and they have not given up till now. Uh, I think the displaced persons currently might come currently in these relief centers would be close to around 20,000, and it would be more if we add the other hill districts as well, or much more, or it would be twice that number. Now, because of the violence, the district hospital in Lanka has been under great strain. Because of the violence, there has been a lot of um, injuries. The medical nurses have not been able to go back home, and because of that, uh, I would especially would like to mention the efforts of the Kuki Khangai Lompi, the KKL, who have been tirelessly cooking food for all the workers and some of the patients in the district hospital whenever as and when necessary since the conflict began. Now it's been more than 3 months. It's been around 100 days, and their efforts have not dwindled down a single bit. So these are some of the efforts of the youth. And now the second important element that I want to mention, and which I feel can be controversial, but I would like to really know is the role of the youth in the defense of the front lines. Now, if you look at it, the army has formed a buffer zone between the valley and the hill districts. However, the presence of the army alone oftentimes is not enough, because the army and the state police have their own politics, right? The tribals, the Kukizo tribals have completely lost faith in the state police and the state government. Similarly, the Métis population in the valley have lost faith, have and are really suspicious of the central armed forces, especially the Assam Rifles. So because of that, uh, backdoor politics always comes into play, and aggressors always find passage into the other side to attack it whenever, as and when the time suits them. So because of that, a lot of the Kizo frontline villages which have been left by the village inhabitants have uh, are now inhabited sort of by village volunteers. Now, these village volunteers do not necessarily come from that village, but are distributed across those villages, and are functioning in order to help defend that land. And today, a rally was held in Lanka to mark the 100 days of violence that has happened, uh, as a sign of respect to all the frontline warriors, as we have called them, to all the frontline guardians of the Kukizo Hills. So these are very important roles that the youth have been playing, and the youth will not have been the most affected by this conflict, and the youth will also be the ones, as I've mentioned before, after this conflict, it will be the youth who will be left with the mantle to pick up the pieces and to rebuild. So these are some of the elements that are involved in the presentation of youth in conflict. Now, I want to mention that it has always been portrayed as a inter-community, inter-ethnic conflict. And yes, it is true. This conflict is an inter-ethnic conflict between the Métis and the Kizos, and it has its historical precedents, right? It has its historical precedents. Uh, uh, it has a history of certain level of violence before. But I also want to state uh, an economic reason that goes beyond the surface of this conflict. Uh, I think in 2008, natural oil reserve explorations were made into the hills of Manipur, and I think even today, I think a news report came out that spoke about the mineral reserves in the hills of Manipur. And the hills of Manipur, just like other indigenous, Adivasi, and tribal lands all across the world, not just India, have been made the centers of uh, corporate sharks across the world, and in India as well. It has this is something that is worth lots of money, and money oftentimes for rulers is more of a reason is more of a deciding factor for them than the lives lost and the hatred created between communities. And if we are to address uh, and make efforts towards peace and reconciliation, uh, state complicity will have to be state complicity in the violence and in the active targeting of and in the active instigation of hatred between communities has to be admitted, has to be acknowledged, and the complete loss of trust between communities will have to be managed in terms of in political terms. This, of course, comes back to the demand of a separate administration. Now, a separation of administration is something that will have to be organic because a separation of people has already taken place, which is geographical, emotional, and also political. It's just that the administration is not separated. Uh, However, these are things that will have to be looked forward to in any effort and will have to be acknowledged in any efforts for peace and reconciliation. So these are things that I can say regarding youth in conflict, and I think I have made it a point to end on a positive note, especially after yesterday's update from the parliament. Like it's been a bleak day for a lot of the cookies or tribals, but I made it a point to end on a positive note. Mary mentioned about the baby being born in the jungle, right? Uh, Many of us may know, many of us may not know. The interview is there on YouTube. But the name of the baby is Thangal Kai. And to translate that, I'll give it my own translation. The translation of Thangal Kai is the one who climbed over the Great War. And I think that is the hope that we have as Kizo tribals. We want to climb over this great war, find a way to build peace and reconciliation, uh, and let justice prevail, let truth prevail. So thank you.
Thank you, Tana. You focus on youth, particularly how youth's future is endangered, their education, their career, the institutional loss of education. All this was your, but also you focused on how youth contributed towards peace building, taking charge of reliefs, helping helping in many ways. And you try to also point out the root causes of conflict, that is dispute over land and natural resources. These are the things that are at the center of the conflict, and you express hope to overcome this conflict by metaphorically climbing the Great Wall. May there be success, may there be peace, may there be justice, and may there be truth and reconciliation in this case. Thank you all the speakers, Patricia, Mary, Tona, for your excellent presentation, ground reports, and I'm sure all of us have learned quite a lot. Now time for open house. Some ground rules. I know we all are very clever and we all have read a lot about the conflict and we have a lot of knowledge about the conflict. Please avoid trying to show knowledge. But if there is any quest to understand the conflict, any question, please quickly type in the chat box so that we can, so that the resource persons can clarify. Also, if you can, focus your 1 minute that you have to ask questions on the way forward, what you will be doing, what we as Samanvaya, and as civil society should be doing. Let us contribute towards solutions. We have heard the problem. Can we focus more on solution? And of course, if you have any questions, clarifications to seek, you can ask, but please be brief so that others also can participate and others also can ask their doubts or contribute their suggestions for peace and peace building. We don't want to miss anyone's possible suggestion for peace and peace building. So the floor is open. There isn't anything in the chat box as I can see. So if anybody wants to ask any question, please raise your hand and we'll open the unmute yourself and ask. Astrid has to. Yes, Astrid.
Yeah, I just want to say I really thank all the three speakers for their very, very disturbing sharings. And I think it's important that we all be disturbed. And my question is actually, I think Patricia had mentioned something about, the separate governance, and there is no, what shall I say, no plan as such. Okay, although they are asking for a separate governance. Is there anything at all that we can do to somehow advocate for this or work for this, or I don't know. I mean, my question is, if that is a solution that you see, how can we make it happen?
Can you correct a few questions so that more people can participate? Is that okay, Patricia?
Yeah. Mhm.
Anybody else? All right, Patricia, you could begin. Meanwhile, others will think of their questions.
I don't know if there is a Cookie-Zo group that is willing to sit across the table with the civil society groups across the country, if they can be put together by Irfan, and if they can sort of spell out, the outline of what exactly they want, so that that can be put forward as a demand. It shouldn't look confrontational. It should look as if it's addressing a developmental gap that has been there for several decades. Because the slogan today is no division of Manipur. See, so a separate administration would appear as if it's a demand for a separate state. It's a small state. I do not know how feasible or viable it is to divide Manipur into another state or another union territory. But within the given complexities, is there a plan that we can think of? Is the sixth schedule, is the Bodoland Territorial Council model a good model? Maybe we can even get people like Pramod Boro of the BTC chief to share with us ideas, because this is what Sonam Wangdi of Ladakh had also come to seek seek our views on how to apply the sixth schedule to Ladakh, because it had become a union territory, and then they were so afraid that people were going to come in hordes and buy land there. The sixth schedule protects that aspect of it. So is that the solution or the way forward? We will have to consult with the Cookie-Zo community on this.
Thank you, Patricia, for that answer. Bodoland also had a very long struggle.
I'll have to do. Irfan?
Ria,
Ria has her hand up.
Brinal could go first.
Yeah, Irfan, I just want to ask Patricia and the others about, what is the Naga position on all of this? Because any separate administration will also need the kind of support from the Nagas. And the Nagas have been playing neutral, for now. So what is their position on this entire thing about separate administration?
No, the Nagas are not empathetic to this cause. Let me tell you that. They are stuck on their demand for greater Naga limb. And to they had said that the government of India should speed up the solution, the framework agreement, and make it final. Until it does that, we are not going to, we're not going to get into any other sort of negotiation. And then for them, it means they're still sticking to that Naga limb. Now, the Meiteis are very careful about not offending the Nagas. They don't want to open too many flanks, no? So they are going very slow on the Naga thing. The Nagas have been taking their own position, protect their own sort of territorial integrity. And of course, they feel a sense of threat as to what this separate administrative demand from the Kuki-Zo means, or what it would mean to them. So it's a huge tussle. The Nagas are working out very, very astutely here. They're not taking sides. And they are also demanding one thing. They are also with the state in terms of alleging that there is a lot of influx from Burma, from Myanmar, into the Kuki-Zo Chin community. So they're asking for the National Register of Citizens. So that is the position of the Nagas. Tona, would you have any more to add to that?
Yes, yeah, the Nagas have been very careful regarding this issue, because any wrong move can always be counterproductive to the Naga demand for a framework agreement. And so I think yesterday the Nagas in about 5 districts, or the Naga inhabited districts in Manipur, went for a mass rally. And actually, a thing of surprise, but not so much of a surprise again, is that this Naga rally was supported by the Kuki in Manipur, the Zomi Council, and the Mar in Pul. So all the Kuki-Zo apex bodies have given their support to the rally for the expediting of the Naga Framework Agreement. Now, this in geopolitical terms can only be interpreted as an attempt to gain the sympathy and support of the Nagas. However, the Nagas have been very careful, and the Nagas are also not just like us. To be honest, Nagas do not have at the moment. I do not think they have one voice. So there are groups like the GPRN, the NSC and GPRN, and then the NSC and IM, and then divisions between the UNC and the ZUF. So there are a lot of groups which have slightly different stances on the current issue. So it would be very hard to generalize something as the Naga position is this and not that. So this is what I can say. But I think the Kuki-Zo community, like the various tribes that fall within the Kuki-Zo community, are trying their best to reach out to whatever help that they can get in order to get across and climb over the institutionalized and structural sort of violence that we are facing right now.
There is one possible solution also, which is Article 371 should also be looked at, what that has to offer on table by way of solution. But then having abolished Article 370, this government will certainly not try to look at Article 371. Riya?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And I would like to say that this is a very important initiative that Samanvaya has taken. I would like to thank all the speakers for taking out the time today. Because we are discussing solutions, I think what I've been seeing, what we've all been seeing is that the media wants us to believe that this or that community is to be blamed, this or that party is to be blamed. But what today's speakers have made very clear is that this is state-sponsored. The violence is not spontaneous, it is well planned. I think it raises a lot of questions for us when people across the country want an end to the violence, people have been organizing demonstrations in support of the people of Manipur. How is it that the violence is still not stopped? How is it that the violence is not stopped when the state is so heavily armed? So I think that as our responsibility, civil society organizations, activists, it has to be to expose how these events take place. It has to be to expose the nature of the state. And we have to raise questions on how this works, because a lot of speakers also pointed out the centrality of corporate interests in the situation. People of the country want that refugees are taken care of. We don't want unemployment in Manipur. We don't want poverty in Manipur. But nothing is being done on this. So why is it that there is no accountability? I think that we should take this a step ahead and gradually start organizing discussions on these points. And this is one way of uniting and mobilizing people. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone. Yeah.
So, Ria, yours is a bit of a question, but more also of your opinion. So you are welcome. Anybody wants to respond? Patricia.
No, I want to respond to this because you see, in any other state that is not a BJP ruled state, president's rule would have been imposed if the conflict does not come down after 3 days. No, it means there is complete state failure, complete breakdown of governance, collapse of governance. So when people have no faith in a chief minister and his ability to do justice, then there should have been, the center should have at least listened to those appeals for president's rule. We've been saying it over the media again and again. If you follow the politics of Manipur, it has been under president's rule 10 times in the past. Why not this one more time if it can bring down the level of violence? So this is a tacit support also by the central government because they know that Biren Singh can deliver Manipur to them in 2024. And there is no other leader who perhaps has his strategies and his ability to win that state for them. So it's all politics. And it appears to most of us that politics has overridden every other human consideration. You play politics with people's lives, you play politics with everything. As long as it brings you the votes, you just don't care.
So the last question of this evening is what Brinal has put in the chat box to Patricia. What is your opinion on the massive inroads made by the BJP in the Northeast?
I have to explain this. All the 7 northeastern states and Sikkim, of course, which was tagged along with the 7 because after the creation of the Department for the Development of the Northeastern Region, which later became a ministry, MDONA, none of these states are economically viable. They are heavily dependent on the center for everything. They don't generate enough revenues. So they cannot be antagonistic to any government at the center. They will not get development funds. They will face a lot of problems. So willy-nilly, they align themselves with BJP. However, I must say that in states like Meghalaya, for instance, you only have 2 BJP MLAs. The BJP has only a toehold, not even a foothold. In Nagaland, they seem to have made more inroads. In Meghalaya, they've been stuck at 2 MLAs. Tripura, as you know, is all BJP, with the Tripura Motha trying to form a strong anti-BJP coalition, but that also seems to be from their hands. Then you have Mizoram. Mizoram also is aligned to the government at the center. So this dependency syndrome is what takes away our political freedom to decide for ourselves.
We had great insights into the present conflict in Manipur today evening. We had a great panel. All of them contributed richly to our perspective building on the conflict, to the plight of the people and reporting from the ground what's happening, and also possibly suggesting possible solutions ahead. We had great audience and participants today who asked and contributed towards the rich discussion that took place. My job as moderator is over. I thank all the speakers and all the participants, and I invite Astrid to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Irfan. I just officially, on behalf of Samanvaya, would like to extend my thanks to Patricia, Mary, and Tauna for making Manipur come alive to us in a very, what shall I say, in a very unusual way. But listening to you all today, we got to the heart of Manipur, where you spoke of what was happening to the people of Manipur with regard to the food, with regard to the medical facilities. And I think listening to Torna made me realize what a long impact this is going to have. So one, of course, is, of course, we've seen demolition of houses and, what do you call it? So many have been displaced. That's one whole aspect. But the other is, the youth and so many things that we take for granted, simple things like examination centers. I mean, I think that was very revealing, and I really thank you for this. I think I thank all three of you because of what you are doing in Manipur and how you are helping and working with the people of Manipur. I want to especially thank Torna because he spoke of how much the youth groups were doing in Manipur. And I think for me, that was the biggest sign of hope in the presentations that we heard today. So I just want to say that I hope that, I just want to say that I hope that you will, have faith in us, people like us, people who are there, I know, with you on so many networks, that you are not alone and that we are working with the people of Manipur, and that Torna's dream of the one who climbed over the Great Wall, that we will all be able to climb with you over this Great Wall. So thank you once again to all our three speakers. I would also like to thank Irfan. Irfan has been doing a lot in this regard. You see his name everywhere in every possible webinar, and he is a great asset to Samanvaya because he's there at every instance with every kind of program that we have. And finally, I would like to thank the person who, who planted the first seed for this webinar, and that is Tony Dias, who is one of the co-founders of Samanvaya, along with Prashant Olalekar. And it is the two of them who have been carrying Samanvaya all this time. And we are grateful to you. Thank you so much. And may we continue with the spirit of Samanvaya, to be together. Thank you.
If anybody wants to help and contribute, Father Tony, you want to suggest where they should contribute?
Yes, I can definitely send this a particular bank account, which is an official bank account of our region here, so that you all could contribute. One way, I will send it.
Yeah. So just before leaving, in the chat box, please note down in case you want to contribute.
Yes.
And Father Tony, send it to others also who left earlier.
Yes, I will.
So that,
I will do that.
Yeah, Samanvaya could appeal.
Sure.
So that
I will do that.
Could contribute.
Thank all our participants. A few of them have already left.
Yes.
But obviously, without all of you and without your interaction, your interest and your presence here, this would not be able to happen. So thank you so much.